Tennessee over the weekend, and this was actually Friday afternoon, right about the time we went off the air, started to pick up these commitments. And a couple of them we were absolutely sure that they were coming. That wasn't a surprise at all. So let's go ahead and break those down. Shamar Arnoux, he's the 2025 defensive back. Jesse Perry, and then Gage Ginther. What do you make that trio of a haul for Tennessee on a weekend in which is Easter weekend? They don't have practice, so players weren't able to see practice in person over the weekend, which often leads to commitments. I was just a little surprised over the weekend. Tennessee picked up 3 quick ones, but that's good for the Vols.
Yes, starting with Shamar Arnoux. So for people who didn't pay attention to us over the weekend or who haven't checked out his interview on our YouTube channel, he is a 4-star defensive back for the 2025 class. That's another sign that Josh Heupel is just throwing stuff at the wall for defensive backs right now. He needs an elite defensive back, and he's going to keep recruiting them until he finds enough special players for depth, because we know how bad that unit was last year. This was a good pickup. This was a really good pickup. I think Tennessee is going to keep targeting those type of players, particularly because they're deep enough on the defensive line and linebacker and receiver now. And most of Josh Heupel's offense is about him, and he's not going to have to work that hard to recruit on offense in the future.
You had mentioned, too, not to get you sidetracked, but is Tennessee recruiting bigger defensive backs? Well, Willie Martinez was actually asked that. Do you like bigger defensive backs? And he said specifically he liked guys with length. So maybe they didn't necessarily answer your question, but indirectly they did. They want guys that are in the 6'1", 6 foot, 6'2" top of range. So you're going to see more of those. What'd you make of the rest of the trio?
Yes, so the other two were offensive linemen, both 3 stars. But Dave, I think you know as well as I do, with offensive linemen more than any other type of position, recruiting the bodies matter more than the star ratings. And Tennessee picked up 2, Jesse Perry, Gage Ginther, 1 from in-state, 1 out of Colorado. Adding those 2 guys now gives them 8 commitments for 2024. And right now on 247 Sports Composite, they're number 7. Now, this is way too early. Recruiting halls happen in June, and it totally reshuffles the recruiting rankings. But only Georgia and LSU are ahead of them right now. Gun to my head, Alabama's going to be ahead of them when it's all said and done. But right now, Tennessee is not looking too bad. And that's a really good sign.
If I can jump in there, I think Georgia and Alabama will always have an advantage in recruiting offensive linemen, and that's because of size. They're going to take the big guys, whereas Tennessee is just going to be fine taking a guy that's the 280, 285 range that will grow into 300. They don't need the 320 guy because they want guys that are going to be light on their feet. So recruiting rankings, and trust me, I know this, they're going to look at size. And if there's some place between a 3-star and a 4-star, or a 4-star and a 5-star, then they're going to give them credit based off their size. So Tennessee may not win elite recruiting battles when it comes to offensive linemen, but that's not necessarily a bad thing moving forward because they want guys that are light and can move on their feet. Sorry, Kim, go ahead.
No, that's fine. And yes, and to add context to that, Gage Ginther, who is an interior lineman, is 6'5", about 287, according to 247 Sports. Jesse Perry is 6'6", 275. Now you expect them to put on some weight by the time they arrive at Tennessee because they have another year of football left, and then there's going to be conditioning and they'll probably ride the bench for a year or 2 before they even see the field. And I agree. That's probably the one thing that you can kind of skew things in Tennessee's favor a little bit if they're 5 to 6. If they're in the 5 to 10 range in recruiting classes over the next few years, and Alabama and Georgia in the 1 to 5, the difference may be, just like you said, the star ratings of the offensive linemen solely due to the size. And so I don't think it's reason to panic.
And I want to be real clear in something I'm about to say. I'm not saying they're turning down the Trey Smiths of the world, okay? I'm not saying that. However, if a guy comes down the pike and you look at him and you say he's an offensive guard, I don't see him moving to tackle, and he's locked in that position, that probably says something about his feet, and they're probably going to have tougher battles with those guys with Georgia and Alabama. So I'm not saying they wouldn't take a Trey Smith, I'm saying it may be tougher to get a Trey Smith, a really, really highly touted offensive lineman, because I think he's going to be more apt to go to a more of a pro style set like Georgia or Alabama. But that doesn't mean that Tennessee's not winning the battles they need to win in recruiting.
Yeah, and the unique part about Tennessee, what people need to know is, yes, Heupel runs an air raid, or not an air raid, a veer and shoot is what Dave and I coined it last year for fun, because there's really no phrase for the offense that he runs yet. But we call it the veer and shoot. It's tempo-based. It spreads the field, but it's not a spread offense. I think we need to make that clear. It's not the type of offense where offensive linemen, if you go look at what Urban Meyer did or what Ryan Day's doing at Ohio State, those offensive linemen are told to drop back and just do this and then force the guy a certain area, but not maintain blocks at all.
Right.
Whereas Heupel's linemen are still taught to maintain blocks because he relies so heavily on the vertical run game. And so you're still going to be coached. You still will be prepared for the NFL as a lineman in Heupel's system. And that's something that will help him long term. But you're right. You're going to be more prepared in Alabama's or Georgia's offense.
Okay, so that leads me to today's tough question. So let's go ahead and dive in that now. Brought to you by Craven Wings. And today's tough question is Tennessee on Georgia and Alabama's level at this very moment in time in terms of recruiting. I think they're on that level in a lot of different places. But let me ask you specifically, are they at the Bama UGA level? Almost that good. Still some work to do. Still plenty to do. One is running away with it and know that we are, because of the way algorithms work, we are most oftentimes displayed in front of Tennessee fans. So what do you think of the Craven Wings today's tough question? Would you say which one's running away with it without looking? Bama UGA level, almost that good, still has some work to do, still plenty to do.
I'm going to say still has some work to do as the one that's running away with it.
Yep, still has some work to do at 60%, almost that good 26.7%. Bama UGA level 3.3%, still plenty to do at 10%. Again, brought to you by Craven Wings. You will love Craven Wings. Their wings are phenomenal. Great food across the board. I love their salads too. But Craven Wings has daily specials. So get there and get there now to Craven Wings. You will love it. Portions of the program also brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. City Heating and Air Conditioning. Integrity matters, guys. And that unit's about to go out. It's going to get warm. And you want to know that if you're, hey, I'm just saying, your unit just needs a part instead of a whole new unit, which can be thousands of dollars. City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. So that's today's tough question. Apparently, Tennessee fans are being very honest with themselves and say, hey, this recruiting needs some work. And I talked to somebody in the recruiting office. So they told me, they said the recruiting is not on point. Just want to let you know that it's going to get even better, which I think is a good sign. I don't think that's a bad sign. But I think they're getting incredibly close.